Hello, I'm going to show you how you can import a previously made design in another application into Fusion 360 and then make a milling setup for CNC milling operations. So the first thing we got to do while we're in design space here, we got a free open window. We're going to click on the File menu in the upper left. And then we're going to click on Open to go find which file we want. When this window comes up, I'm going to go to where it says Open from my computer so I can search on my device. It just happens to open up into where I want to be, which is pretty lucky. So I'm going to click on a file and then Open. And here we go. We've got our file right here that we want. Comes in. I'm going to kind of take a look around. Okay, I can see we got several holes. We got some counterbore holes. So I think in order to get this all done in one shot, I'll do the programming from this side as if we're looking down onto the machine table and this is on the machine table this way. So Y will go up this way, X will go over to the right, and Z will come from the part up and away from it. Okay, got to make sure that we have everything oriented properly in order for the machine code to come out right, for everything to work safely. So, okay, the first thing I want to do is check my document settings over here on the left. I'm going to click on this little arrow to open this up. And if I highlight over units, it says millimeters. And then there's a little button that pops up over here so I can change the active units. Click on that. I want to change this from millimeter to inch. I program everything in inches, and that's what we'll be doing in this course anyways. So we click OK, and we're good to go. All right, so that's it. That's the simple part right at the beginning. Now we need to go from design space, the design workspace, over to the manufacturing workspace. This is where we're going to generate our tool paths and create everything to make our CNC code. As you can see, once we're in the manufacturing space, up the top changes drastically. We've got different menus for different types of activities, milling, turning, additive manufacturing, and so forth. We're going to stick with the first one, milling. Now, what we're doing right now in this video is just creating the setup itself. We're not applying any machining strategies, but I tell you that we will get into the 2D strategies for facing and pocketing and roughing, a whole bunch of different things we'll get into bit by bit, and also different drilling strategies, drilling, tapping, countersinking, and that sort of thing. We will get into simulating on the screen once we've got our tool paths, and then finally post-processing that into good CNC code for our machine. So let's start with the first setup. It's pretty straightforward. Up over here in the upper left, you can see there's an icon that says setup. It is our first step in doing anything. We can't apply any tool paths until we have a setup. So you could either access it through that, or if you see the setup drop-down menu and click on new setup, you can do the same thing there. All right, so this opens up, and we're actually pretty lucky that the way this opened up, the orientation of our Y, our X, and our Z, all of them are really straight off the bat here. It's exactly what we want to see. I'm going to do something quick here, and I'm gonna mess it up a little bit for us. Okay, so right now you can see that everything's pointing in the wrong direction. All right, so what happens if you open a model and this is what it looks like? All right, so in this menu here, right, this is our dialog for everything we need to do in our setup. The first tab is about our setup itself. Second tab is about stock, and the third is called post process. We'll get to that one at a time. Right now we're in the initial setup menu, and the first thing we need to deal with, other than the fact that our operation type is milling, we know that, right? Our work coordinate system, the WCS, all right? As we talked about it a minute ago, the Z has to go up away from the face of the part. The Y and the X basically should look like when we're drawing on the Cartesian coordinate system, right? The y goes up, the x goes to the right. So if there's a problem with that, which is what we have here, this is a real problem, we can go to orientation and select z-axis plane and the x-axis, and this will straighten it out for us. So I'm going to click on that, select z-axis plane, and click on this, and you can already see it's already straightened out for us, right? So if we had to, we could go to the x-axis and click an edge, if that was an issue, and straighten it all out. So that's how we can manipulate the orientation of our work coordinate system. Now the other issue is, where does this located? It went to the center of the piece by default. That's not where we want it to be. It's going to be much easier for us to deal with picking up a couple of edges and going from a corner of our stock. By the way, this light color surrounding the design, that represents the stock. We'll get to that in a second. But what I want to do is I want to pick a corner. And it doesn't really matter which one it is in this case, but what I have to do is where it says origin, make sure it's on stock box point. And then where it says stock point, I got to click on that little box point. See how that turns blue? Now, look at this. All these little dots are places where we can click on to choose where we want that coordinate system to be. All right. Again, like I said, I think it's easiest to do it at a corner. So I'll choose just because I want to, the upper right. It'll work for me. I can pick up my X here and my Y here, the edge finder. All right, so this is at the very corner of the stock that we have cut out. Now, if we look at our stock, it's not really ideal because it doesn't even cover the bottom of this on the original design. So we've got to always have stock that's bigger than our finished product so we can trim it to size. So that's when we're going to go over to the stock tab. There are some different modes that we can use for our stock. We can use a fixed or a relative size box, a fixed or a relative size cylinder, a tube, or even from a solid model that we create. That's getting complex. We're going to stick with really most of what we're going to be doing is fixed size box, where we say exactly how big it is. All right, we give the dimensions along the X, the Y, and the Z, or the relative size box that just offsets from your X, offsets from your Y, and offsets from your Z. It as long as you know what your stock size is, I think it's easier to use the fixed size box. The 8-inch looks pretty good. We got a little bit extra on each end. The Y, we could open that up a little bit. We'll call it 5 inches. So it's some more stock. And on the Z, we need some stock to hold on to on the bottom. And then have the finished part outside of the jaws. So I'm going to make our height a lot thicker. I'm going to go, instead of 1/2 inch, I'm going to go 1 inch. And you can see now, if I go look at the side, we've got enough on the very top surface to skim flat. So to in case we have stock that's not really accurate, we can take a skim cut. And then on the bottom area here, this stock we'll use to hold on to in our jaws. And then our finished piece can stick above the jaws, obviously, so we don't run into the jaws with our end mills and other tooling. So that all looks pretty good as far as that goes. We've got plenty of stock all around. We've got the correct orientation of our work coordinate system, and we got it in the right spot that we wanted to, upper right corner for this part. All right, the next thing we do is the post-process tab. Very simple. We're just putting in your program number. All right, so pick a 5-digit number that doesn't start with 9. Don't put the letter O in there. We'll take care of that afterwards when we're post-processing. And program comments is anything you want in parentheses at the beginning. I can put something like, I'll put the part number S08-P03. Up 1, so operation 1, and then G54 upper right of stock. That's just for the setup person, so they'll know kind of what you're looking to do here. And that's it. That's all there is to doing a setup. It's fairly straightforward, but you have to understand what you want to do first. And all right, now I click OK, and you can see the setup one is over here. Now we're ready to start applying some of these different strategies, which I will get into in later videos. But this should at least get you started so you have a setup, you have your stock, and you have your work coordinate system oriented in place properly.